As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the windows of a small, modest home, the soft hum of morning began to stir. The mother, dressed in her worn but tidy clothes, moved about the kitchen with a quiet grace, her every motion filled with love. Her hands, weathered by years of sacrifice, worked tirelessly to prepare a warm breakfast for her children. The aroma of fresh bread and tea mingled with the sound of their laughter, a melody that filled the home with life. Her youngest, still sleepy-eyed, clung to her skirt, seeking the comfort of her touch. She bent down to kiss his forehead, her smile tender and full of warmth, as if to remind him that her love was a constant, unshakable force. At the small wooden table, her children's chatter was lively and carefree, their faces lit with joy as they playfully teased one another. She watched them, her heart swelling with an indescribable emotion, a mix of pride, gratitude, and a love so deep it brought tears to her eyes. Each giggle, each word they spoke, felt like a treasure, a reminder of why she faced the hardships of life with unwavering strength. Placing the last plate on the table, she joined them, her presence a calming force that bound them all together. One of her older children, noticing the tiredness in her eyes, quietly offered to help, but she waved him off with a soft smile, assuring him she was fine. The sun's warm light bathed the room, casting a golden glow that seemed to reflect the love they shared. In that simple, humble space, surrounded by the laughter and smiles of her children, the mother felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They were her everything, her purpose, her strength, her reason to endure. She looked at each of them, her heart whispering a silent prayer, that they remain happy, healthy, and united, always surrounded by the love that filled this home. The gentle hum of the radio played in the background, blending with the soft clinking of dishes as the mother tidied up after breakfast. Her children's laughter still echoed faintly in the air as they played nearby, their joy a comforting sound in the otherwise quiet morning. But then, the tone of the radio shifted, its cheerful music replaced by a stern voice delivering urgent news. Reports of dangerous weather brewing nearby or a local threat filled the room, the words cutting through the calm like an icy breeze. The mother paused, her hands stilling as she listened intently, her heart tightening with unease. She glanced toward her children, their carefree innocence, a sharp contrast to the heaviness now settling in her chest. For a moment, she stood frozen, her mind racing with thoughts of how to protect them. She wiped her hands on her apron and moved closer to the window, her eyes scanning the horizon, though it gave no sign of the storm to come. Turning back, she looked at her children, her entire world wrapped in their small, lively forms, and a pang of fear gripped her. But she quickly pushed it aside, refusing to let it show. Instead, she closed her eyes briefly, clasping her hands together in a silent, heartfelt prayer for their safety. The faint smile she wore when she opened her eyes was for their sake, a fragile shield against the unease brewing within her. She knew in her heart that something was coming. Without warning, a deafening crash shook the house, followed by the ground trembling beneath their feet. The walls groaned and creaked as a terrifying roar filled the air, the sound of destruction approaching fast. The mother's heart raced as she instinctively reached for her children, pulling them close, her eyes wide with panic. The windows shattered, sending shards of glass scattering across the floor, and the room seemed to tilt as the earth continued to quake. Her children screamed, clutching at her, their faces filled with fear and confusion. Chaos erupted around them. Furniture toppled, objects crashed to the floor, and the very foundation of their home seemed to buckle. The mother's voice shook as she tried to calm them, her own fear barely contained. She fought to keep her thoughts clear, her mind racing with the need to protect them. The storm outside roared louder, and she knew they had to move, fast. The mother's heart pounded, but her instincts kicked in as her fear melted away. She pulled her children closer, her voice firm yet filled with urgency. "Stay close to me now," she commanded, her tone brokering no argument. Her hands were steady as she guided them through the shaking house, her eyes scanning every corner for the safest route. The noise outside was deafening, the wind howling, as if the very world was being torn apart. But in that moment, her mind was clear. She had one mission: to protect them, no matter what. She rushed to the back door, but it was blocked by debris. Her eyes quickly flicked to the small basement entrance, a sudden thought flashing through her mind. Without a second's hesitation, she motioned for them to follow her. "Down the stairs, quickly," she instructed. Her children, still trembling with fear, obeyed without question, instinctively trusting her. The mother went last, ensuring they were all together as she shielded them from the falling debris above. Her heart was racing, but she never allowed panic to show on her face. In the dim light of the basement, she wrapped her arms around them, pulling them close to her chest. The sounds of destruction above grew louder, but she whispered soothing words to her children, holding them as tightly as she could. Her thoughts raced with ways to keep them safe, ways to survive. But one thing was certain: she would do anything to protect them. The storm may have been fierce, but in that basement, with her children in her arms, she was their shield. As the tremors grew stronger, the foundation of the house began to crack, and the ceiling above them groaned ominously. The mother's heart raced as a heavy beam broke loose and hurtled toward them. Without a second thought, she threw herself in front of her children, her body instinctively shielding them from the falling debris. Her arms stretched out protectively as the beam crashed against her back, knocking the wind out of her. She gasped, but her voice remained steady as she whispered to them, "I'm here. I'm with you. Nothing will happen." Her children, terrified and trembling, clung to her, their eyes wide with fear. She held them tighter, her voice unwavering. "I love you more than anything. Stay strong for me," she whispered through clenched teeth, pain searing through her. Despite the agony, she refused to let go, her body pressed against them, offering a shield of love and warmth. In those few moments, the world outside may have been falling apart, but within her arms, they were safe, protected by her undying love. The world around them was fading, the sounds of destruction muffled by the blood rushing in her ears. The mother's body, battered and broken, barely held together as she struggled to keep her eyes open. Every breath was painful and her limbs felt heavy, but her gaze never left her children. They huddled close, tears streaming down their faces, their hands shaking as they clung to her. Her voice, weak but determined, broke through the silence. "Listen to me, my loves," she whispered, her words filled with an unwavering tenderness. "You must be strong now. Stay together, no matter what happens." Her vision blurred, but she forced herself to smile, her hands trembling as she cupped their faces. "You're my heart, my soul. Don't forget that. Be brave and take care of each other." Her breath hitched, but she continued, "I'm so proud of you. You've been everything to me." The warmth in her touch seemed to reach them, even as her life slowly slipped away. Her fingers lightly brushed their cheeks, her love echoing in the tender way she held them. With her final strength, she kissed their foreheads, her last gift of love before darkness overtook her. Her children, hearts shattered, held her close, not wanting to let go, but knowing she had given them everything. The earth had finally calmed, the terrifying tremors subsiding into an eerie silence. The children, bloodied and bruised but alive, emerged from the basement, their faces pale with shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. The wreckage around them was unimaginable, but all they could focus on was the stillness of their mother, who had given her life to protect them. As rescuers arrived, the sound of sirens and footsteps barely registered in their minds. They were numb, their hearts shattered by the loss they couldn't yet comprehend. The rescuers rushed to them, trying to pull them away from the wreckage, but the children wouldn't let go. They clung desperately to their mother's lifeless body, tears streaming down their faces. Their sobs echoed in the still air, their hearts breaking with every moment they spent without her. "Mom, Mom, please wake up," one of them cried, shaking her gently, but there was no response. The rescuers stood in stunned silence, witnessing the true depth of a mother's love. As they carefully pried the children away, they saw the marks of sacrifice on the mother's broken body, and they understood. The children too understood, their grief etched on their faces as they held each other close, too young to fully grasp the weight of their loss. But one thing was certain: their mother's love would never fade, and her sacrifice would be remembered forever. In the aftermath, the once cozy home was now a pile of rubble, the memories of laughter and warmth swallowed by the destruction. The children stood at the edge of the wreckage, their eyes vacant, staring at the ruins that had once been their sanctuary. The weight of their loss pressed on their hearts like a stone, each breath they took feeling heavier than the last. In the days that followed, they were taken in by relatives or a kind neighbor, but nothing could fill the void their mother had left behind. The love and comfort they had known now felt like a distant dream, one that they could never fully grasp again. The house was silent now, the once familiar sounds of their mother's voice gone, leaving only an emptiness that echoed through the halls of their hearts. Every corner of the new homes felt foreign, cold, and unwelcoming. The laughter that once filled the air was now replaced by the quiet, sorrowful moments of longing. Each day they woke with the weight of grief, the absence of their mother, a constant ache in their chests. Her love had been their guiding light, and now that light had been extinguished, leaving them in a world that felt darker and colder. No amount of kindness from others could replace the warmth of her embrace. The world without her felt unbearably empty. In the quiet moments when the world felt too heavy to bear, the children found solace in the memories of their mother's love. They remembered her smile, the way it could light up even the darkest of days, her eyes always filled with warmth and understanding. It was a smile that spoke of unconditional love, a love that never wavered, no matter the challenges they faced. They would often find themselves reminiscing about the small things, the way she would hum softly while working, the feel of her comforting embrace when they were scared, or how she would listen to their endless chatter with patience, always giving them her full attention. Her kindness was a constant, wrapping around them like a protective blanket, and her laughter was a melody that had once filled the house with life. But what stayed with them the most was the ultimate sacrifice she made. The children would close their eyes, and in their minds they could see her, throwing herself in front of them, her body becoming the shield that saved their lives. It was a sacrifice that no words could ever fully describe, but it was etched deeply in their hearts. Her strength, her bravery, and her unwavering love were now the guiding forces in their lives, giving them the courage to face each day, knowing that no matter what, they would carry a part of her with them forever. As the years passed, the children grew, each one carrying a piece of their mother's strength and love within them. Her teachings, her wisdom, and her sacrifice became the foundation upon which they built their lives. Though the pain of losing her never fully faded, it was tempered by the knowledge that her love was their guiding light, always leading them forward. They lived each day with a sense of purpose, determined to honor her memory by making the most of the life she had given them. They worked hard, loved deeply, and faced each challenge with the courage she had shown them in her final moments. Her legacy lived on in their actions, their kindness, and their resilience. And as they looked up at the sky, they knew she was watching over them, proud of the people they had become. The gift of life she had sacrificed everything for was not lost. It was cherished, nurtured, and carried forward, a testament to the power of a mother's love that transcended even death.